Hello and welcome dear students of class 12. This is the second video lecture on the chapter The Third Level by Jack Finney. Students, before I start teaching you further, let's have a quick recap of part 1. In part 1, we saw that Charlie, who is the main protagonist of the story, describes that how one summer evening he was in a hurry to return home to his wife Louisa, and he decides to take a train from the Grand Central Station in New York City. Now the Grand Central Station actually has 2 levels, but Charlie gets lost there and finds himself on the 3rd level. When Charlie discussed this with his psychiatrist friend Sam Venner, he explained that it was a waking dream wish fulfillment. He further said that Charlie was unhappy in his life, so he was trying to escape. He said that his collection of stamps, his hobby of philately, also was a temporary refuge from reality. But in his defense, Charlie said that his stamp collection was started by his grandfather, and in his times things were quite nice and peaceful, and he did not want to escape away from any harsh realities of life. Then Charlie describes the scene at the 3rd level. What did he see there? He says that he saw brass spittoons kept in the corners. He saw gas lights. The people on the platform were dressed in old-fashioned clothes, and their appearance also was different. Men had big handlebar mustaches and side whiskers. The women were dressed in old-fashioned clothes, and also he saw an old locomotive there, and he realized that he has traveled back to past. Children, we did till here. Now I will continue. To make sure, I walked over to a newsboy and glanced at the stack of papers at his feet. It was The World, and The World hasn't been published for years. The lead story said something about President Cleveland. I have found that front page since in the public library files, and it was printed June 11, 1894. To confirm that he was in the year 1894, in the past, Charlie walked over to the newsboy and looked at the pile of newspapers. The newspaper's name was The World. The lead story was about President Cleveland, and then Charlie went to the public library later on to find out about this newspaper, and the date of the publication of the newspaper was June 11, 1894. I turned toward the ticket windows, knowing that here on the 3rd level at Grand Central, I could buy tickets that would take Louisa and me anywhere in the United States we wanted to go in the year 1894. And I wanted 2 tickets to Galesburg, Illinois. Now Charlie, he went towards the ticket windows, knowing that on the Grand Central 3rd level, he could take tickets to anywhere in the United States in the year 1894. Now Charlie believed that from the 1st and the 2nd level, you could travel to modern places that existed in the modern times, that is 1950s. But from the 3rd level, you could travel anywhere in the past in the year 1894. And he wanted to travel with his wife Louisa to Galesburg, Illinois. Have you ever been there? It's a wonderful town still, with big old frame houses, huge lawns, and tremendous trees whose branches meet overhead and roof the streets. He says, have you been to Galesburg, Illinois in the year 1894? It's a wonderful town with big houses, huge lawns in front of the houses, and big trees that cover the streets. And in 1894, summer evenings were twice as long, and people sat out their lawns, the men smoking cigars and talking quietly, the women waving palm leaf fans with the fireflies all around in a peaceful world. Children, underline this. Why he wanted to travel to Galesburg, Illinois in the year 1894? Because it was a very peaceful place, very quiet and serene. The life was very relaxed and laid back there. To be back there with the First World War still 20 years off and World War II over 40 years in the future. I wanted two tickets for that. And also there was no worry, no fear of wars, no threat, and it was a very peaceful and serene life. He wanted to visit there with his wife Louisa, so he wanted to buy two tickets. The clerk figured the fare. He glanced at my fancy headband, but he figured the fare, and I had enough for two coach tickets one way. The clerk, he calculated the fare, and while calculating the fare, he was looking at Charlie's hat, which had a fancy headband. But Charlie said he had enough money to buy two coach tickets only one way. But when I counted out the money and looked up, the clerk was staring at me. He nodded at the bills. That ain't money, mister, he said. And if you are trying to skin me, you won't get very far. And when Charlie started counting the money, the clerk stared at him and he said, that is not money. And if you are trying to befool me, if you are trying to cheat me, then you won't be able to escape. And he glanced at the cash drawer beside him. Of course, the money was old style bills, and when the clerk looked at the cash drawer beside him, the currency that was kept there, it was old style bills, half again as big as the money we use nowadays, and different looking. That was also old currency and it looked different. I turned away and got out fast. There's nothing nice about jail even in 1894, and Charlie ran away from there because he says there is nothing nice about jail even in the year 1894. And that was that. That was his experience at the third level. I left the same way I came, I suppose. He says, I imagine I left the way he had entered the third level. Next day during lunch hour, I drew $300 out of the bank, nearly all we had, and bought old style currency that really worried my psychiatrist friend. Next day, when he went to the office during lunch hours, he withdrew all his savings from the bank. That was about $300. And that was something that worried his psychiatrist friend because that was an extreme step. You can buy old money at almost any coin dealers, but you have to pay a premium. My $300 bought less than $200 in old style bills, but I did not care. Eggs were 13 cents a dozen in 1894. After withdrawing money from the bank, Charlie went to a coin dealer's shop. There you can exchange money. You have to pay extra, but you can exchange the currency. So in exchange of his $300, he got less than $200 of old style currency. But he did not bother. Why? Because things were quite cheap in 1894. But I have never again found the corridor that leads to the third level at Grand Central Station, although I have tried often enough. And after exchanging the currency, he tried to visit the third level many times, but he could not find the corridor that would lead him there, although he tried many times. Louisa was pretty worried when I told her all this and did not want me to look for the third level anymore. And after a while, I stopped. I went back to my stamps, underline this. And when the Charlie shared this with his wife, she was quite worried about him. She was worried about his mental health, and she told her husband not to look for the third level. And Charlie says that after a while he stopped and he went back to his stamp collection. That was said that it was a temporary refuge from reality. But now we are both looking every weekend because now we have proof that the third level is still there. But he says now every week they both are looking, Charlie and his wife Louisa, they both are looking for the third level. Why? My friend Sam Wenner disappeared. Nobody knew where, but I sort of suspected because Sam is a city boy. Underline this. He's a city boy. That means he too has worries and anxieties and tension and stress in life. And I used to tell him about Galesburg. I went to school there and he always said he liked the sound of the place. And that's where he is, all right, in 1894. He says that his friend Sam Weiner suddenly disappeared and he came to know, and he felt that Sam is also a city boy, and whenever Charlie shared about Galesburg, he was fascinated by the stories and he liked the feel of it, and that's where he is now, and he is in the year 1894. Because one night, fussing with my stamp collection, I found, well, do you know what a first day cover is? Children, I told you in the beginning what a first day cover is. Now you may underline it. When a new stamp is issued, stamp collectors buy and use them to mail envelopes to themselves on the very first day of sale, and the postmark proves the date. What is a first day cover? Charlie was one day going through his first day covers. He says first day covers are envelopes. When a new stamp is issued, the stamp collectors, they buy the stamp and they post it to themselves, and the postmark is a proof to the date. The envelope is called a first day cover. They are never opened. You just put blank paper in the envelope. They are not opened because there is nothing inside. It is just a blank envelope. That night, among my oldest first day covers, I found one that shouldn't have been there. But there it was. It was there because someone had mailed it to my grandfather at his home in Galesburg. That's what the address on the envelope said. One day, while he was going through his stamp collection and he was looking at his first day covers, he found an envelope that he says shouldn't have been there, but it was addressed and mailed to his grandfather who lived in Galesburg. The address on the envelope said that, and it had been there since July 18, 1894. The postmark showed that, yet I did not remember it at all. It was there in the collection since July 18, 1894, but he did not remember it. And children, mark the date here. The date is very important. When Charlie had visited the third level, it was June 11th, 1894. Exactly 1 month later, that envelope he finds with this date July 18, 1894, and he says he had never seen this first day cover before in the collection. The stamp was a 6 cent dull brown with a picture of President Garfield. Naturally, when the envelope came to Granddad in the mail, it went right into his collection and stayed there till I took it out and opened it. The paper inside wasn't blank. Underline this. You know, first day covers, they used to be blank envelopes. But here he says that the paper inside was not blank. There was a note written there. And what did it read? It read, see the address there? 941 Willard Street, Galesburg, Illinois, July 18, 1894. So this letter was written on July 18, 1894. Charlie, this letter is addressed to Charlie, although the first day cover was for Granddad, but the letter is addressed to Charlie. I got to wishing that you were right. Then I got to believing you were right. And Charlie, it's true. I found the third level. I have been here 2 weeks, and right now, down the street at the delis, someone is playing a piano, and they are all out on the front porch singing, Seeing Nellie Home. And I am invited over for lemonade Come on back, Charlie and Louisa. Keep looking till you find the third level. It's worth it, believe me. So, the letter said that Charlie, when you said about third level, I started believing you were right, and now I have found the place. For last 2 weeks I have been here. There people are playing the piano. I have been invited for lemonade. That means it's a very peaceful and nice life. People have leisure time. They play music, and the person said that keep looking for the third level till you find it. It's worth it. And the note is signed Sam. And this letter was signed as Sam. At the stamp and coin store I go to, I found out that Sam bought $800 worth of old style currency. Then Charlie went to again that store where we can exchange stamps and coins, and he came to know that Sam had exchanged $800 worth of old style currency. That ought to set him up in a nice little hay, feed, and grain business. He always said that's what he really wished he could do, and he certainly can't go back to his old business. Not in Galesburg, Illinois in 1894. His old business, what is his old business? He said Sam had exchanged the currency because he wanted to start a business of hay, feed, and grain. And in Galesburg, Illinois in 1894, he cannot go back to his old business. And what is his old business? Why? Sam was my psychiatrist. And at this point of the story, it is revealed that who is Sam? Sam is his psychiatrist friend. Now, children, there are some questions that arise in our mind. First of all, when first day covers used to be blank envelopes, how did Charlie find the letter there? And that too, Charlie is living in the 1950s and the letter was written in 1894. And somebody is in Galesburg and asking Charlie to visit there. So, children, this letter is again a figment of Charlie's imagination. Also, the letter shows the intersection of past and present. Okay? Another question that arises is, did the third level really exist? No, it did not exist. Actually, it was a medium of escape for Charlie from the modern world, which is full of fear, insecurity, worries, war, and tensions. Therefore, he wanted to run away to a world which is peaceful, which is quiet, which is serene, and which is an idyllic world. Okay, children? I hope the chapter is clear to you. In the next video, we'll discuss the textual question answers. Thank you.